like we've had this dip that's gone a little, deeper, and it gets into the whole panic thing, and it's cool. Like I wrote you like a quick email last night. It's funny how we had 4 years of this big bear market, and at the end of that bear market, like nobody really cared. But I know, for a fact, like people are panicking. Like I even, talked to my broker, and like people are like panicking there too, and it's an exciting time because we're already, I mean, assuming like my assumptions are correct, and a lot of other people in this, like we are in a bear market. What is it? Secular bull market in a like temporary or whatever, bear market, and there's a lot of drilling results coming up or like different little catalysts. So like we know stuff is coming up, and so my take is that I like finding those smaller plays that have these catalysts, but like even if gold or some of the other commodities go down further, I think like they will catch on if they hit. So it just like I was expecting to sit on a lot more cash, but I sold some plays and I immediately put it right back in the market. So I don't know if that's the right idea, but I felt like last week could have been a really good opportunity there. And like today feels like a quiet day, so that will be interesting too. Is this going to be like a V, market where it like jumps right back up, or it'll be more like a U, like I don't know. But that's my feeling is whether it's in a week or two or whether it's a month or two, I think it's going to come roaring back. So that's what made last week kind of exciting because it gave some more opportunities. Yeah.
Cool. What do you think, Jay? Have you been thinking about that too, or are you panicking?
I have a buy order right now set in place to get some shares of First Majestic Silver. If it triggers, I kind of put not quite a stink bid, but I just put it a price a little lower than where it's at right now. And I'm watching the charts right now, and it looks like it's about to trigger. So we'll see.
Oh, I was just going to say it's cool because like he just wrote an article last night, including First Majestic Silver. So I think that's like really cool how like you're sharing the ideas with other people, but you're actually doing this like you're doing it right now. So I just want to
here it is live.
What is your reasoning for the people who haven't read your article yet? What's the reasoning behind going for First Majestic specifically?
That one in particular, it just looks a bit oversold to me. I don't really focus much on technical analysis, but I think just a few months back it was like this $19 stock, and it is kind of a go-to stock in the silver space. So right now it's kind of languishing, but I think it's more to do with just because the metals are kind of depressed right now. And there was that article that came out that's there was like a short recommendation or something. So I would agree. I'm not arguing that the shares were overheated quite a bit. It was over a $3 billion market cap not that long ago. But it gets to a point when you look at this and you're like, it's a proven producer. It's a go-to name in silver, and it's down over 50% from the recent highs.
I'm sort of I'm not panicking. I expected this to happen. I did hear one of the old-time investors come in and say before this whole thing happened, he said, well, if there is a bump, if we do come down in price a bit, you can see quite a steep sell-off because for the last 4 years, every time that we've gone up in price and down, the downturn has been much steeper than the way up. And so because people had in mind the last 4 years and what's been happening, then those same people would freak out and just panic and sell their shares. And so I was sort of expecting this. And then you had the financing, at the beginning of the year, and the 4 months are up for a lot of these companies, and they have to really start selling their cheap shares that they bought.
Yeah.
Some of those financing deals, they look extremely cheap right now. And so you'd be a fool not to sell them, right? You'd be a fool. So I was sort of expecting this, but I'm sort of in between. Okay, do I look at sort of the laggards in the gold space, or do I put more into uranium? Because when I look at the chart of uranium, of some uranium stocks that went up, say in the 2007, 2011 bull markets, when they do take off, it's like they make the previous years look like a flat line. And observing that, it makes me sort of think, okay, where is the best use of my money, you know? But then again, the gold market, I think, has already begun on an uptrend. And so, like, do I, keep to the gold and then wait, make some profits there, and then put it into the uranium market without knowing whether there's still going to be a bear market, or do I jump in now because prices are they're going from like 50% off to 70% off to 90% off and beyond. And so it's sort of irresistible at this point. I'm trying to decide where to put a little bit more money.
Don't you kind of wish there was a formula for this? Because, that's something how I feel when I talk to other people and they don't really get it, how dynamic this market is, like trading precious metals. It's funny because I remember the last time I talked to you guys and, we were kind of discussing ideas, and I was thinking, I'm looking at all these mid-tier producers and seniors, development stage companies, and I'm not really finding any deals because everything looks kind of overbought, And then, I was talking to Nick quite a bit, and we were talking about these exploration stories, coming up with ideas. And then the next thing you know, we have this sell-off. So all these producers that, were, quote unquote expensive, now they look a lot more affordable again. So you kind of shift your strategy there. And, just a month ago, I was starting to focus, just like you, Fabi, I was looking at uranium stocks. But then when I see the sell-off in precious metals, you're kind of like flipping the switch a little bit, like, oh, should I get back, into this groove because it looks so attractive now. So it's very fluid, and that's something to keep in mind for investors in the space. Like when you form like this definitive opinion and idea of where you think things are going to go, the market tends to surprise you in more ways than one.
I'll add something to that. I'm definitely a little more obsessed with gold and the small explorers. It's kind of like you build that niche. But
it's the story that's working right now, right?
Yes, it's the story. It's definitely working, and it's interesting to me that like even within this like smaller niche, you can still find take advantage of or have to pay attention to the dynamic nature of it, as Jay mentioned, because at the beginning of the year, very few people were talking about Africa and specifically West Africa. And I've had more people reach out to me recently. Well, where's the next, big West African gold story? And that like so many of them have moved up now. It's like so much has changed. And so it's hard to find things there. But that's why I'm excited that I can stay in that same commodity and, same, small explorer junior space, but I'm moving to other parts of the world. And that's really cool. And I'll just throw out, a couple of regions that excite me, like Eastern Europe, Scandinavia, a little bit of Latin America, which I've been, hesitant on. But even within Latin America, there are some. Well, I guess I'm making the point. Like a lot of people like South America, Central America. But I mean, that's my thing. Is I'm always looking for that country that has been overlooked for years, but you're starting to see the momentum build. But it's just interesting that there's so many ways to play that. But as Jay mentioned, it is dynamic, and you really want to be on top of those changes. Yeah.